Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Friday, February 21st, 2025. You are here with Robin and Scooby, and we are here for our daily Bible reading. We are going through the entire Bible in 1 year, and we are using the Day by Day Kids Bible, which was written by Karen Henley. If you are new to our reading, I want to welcome you. We will be starting the book of Samuel today and hearing about him. And if you are discouraged by the fact that this says it's a kid's Bible, please don't be. This is just an overview of the Bible in a storybook form in chronological order, and it's a great overview of the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation. It gives us the big story. So while it doesn't have every single detail, you can think of it kind of like a devotional book where you don't have an entire book or an entire chapter in your devotional book for the day, but you do have a verse or two. And this is a greater content than just having a verse or two. This will give us an easy to understand story every day. And every day we'll have an application of how you can use today's reading in your life today. That's our big goal this year, is to not just make the Bible understandable, but so that you can see how every story we read every day can be used in your life uh, every day. So I have my daily calendar out here, and if you have yours, it's time to take it out. We are going to mark off our day today. We are towards the end of the month here, so you may not be interested in downloading your own copy of the calendar for this month, but it's still not too late. If you have not downloaded a calendar for this month, please head over to the site. I have a free calendar for you. It is www.inthefamilywaycoaching.com, and it's under the tab of Read the Bible in 1 year. And it's never too late or in the month to download that calendar because it does keep track of your days that you have achieved reading the Bible today. And don't worry if you don't have every single day marked off. What matters is that you are doing it when you have time and you are doing your best. I'm not here to judge you for not being here every single day. I'm happy to have you whatever day you are here. And that's the beauty of having these shorter stories, is that you don't have to feel like you've missed a lot. So you can just pick up anytime. It's a little bit like a soap opera, I was saying yesterday, so that you can just pick up anytime and pick up on the story. We are going to be introduced to Samuel today. Now, I don't know if you remember, but we had used a big word when we read about um, Samson, and he was dedicated to God from birth. And normally, when somebody is dedicated to God, it's not the same as when you're born and your mama and daddy take you to church and they dedicate you to God. That is a different type of dedication. A special vow that was made by God's people was called a Nazarite vow. And that was a vow, a promise that anybody could take to serve God for a specific amount of time and to have certain restrictions placed upon them. And it was as though they were a priest. So we have only 3 instances in the Bible where somebody was dedicated by someone other than themselves. And that was the first example we had with Samson, where he was dedicated to God by God before birth. And now we are going to see the book of Samuel, where Samuel's mom, Hannah, takes him and she dedicates him to serve the Lord. And we will see why that happened. So he was considered a Nazarite also. And so he was very special. So let's head up into our Bible today and we will see what happens. We will be introduced to Samuel's parents. Today's first chapter covers Samuel's 1 Samuel chapters 1 and 2, and that will be the chapters that our reading is taken out of today. Now, if you have your big Bible and you are curious about more details, and you're hungry for God's word, then go ahead and head up your big Bible and check out 1 Samuel chapters 1 and 2. And that is where you will find more details about today's story. This section is entitled A Sad Prayer and a Happy Answer. There was a man who lived in the hills. He had two wives. One had children, and the other didn't. The one who didn't was named Hannah. And every year the man from the hills took a trip. He and his family went to the worship tent. There they would worship God. But the wife with children kept trying to bother Hannah. She would pester Hannah until Hannah cried, and then Hannah wouldn't eat. Hannah's husband would say to her, "Why are you crying? Why are you so sad? Eat something. Am I not more important to you than 10 children?" One time after they ate, Hannah got up. She was very sad, so she went to the worship tent to pray. She cried to God and she asked God for a baby boy. She promised she would let her son serve God. At that time, Eli was the priest, and he was at the door of the worship tent. He was sitting in a chair, and he was watching Hannah. She was thinking her prayer. Her mouth was moving, but she wasn't talking out loud. Eli thought Hannah was drunk. So he said, "Throw your wine away. How much longer will you go on getting drunk?" "I'm not drunk, sir," said Hannah. "Don't think I'm sinning. I'm just very sad, and I was praying to God." "Then you can go home feeling better," said Eli. "I pray that God will give you what you asked for." So Hannah went and ate, and she didn't look sad anymore. The next morning, the family got up early, and they worshiped God. Then they went back to their home in the hills. God remembered Hannah's prayer. She had a baby boy. She named him Samuel. In the language of God's people, the name Samuel sounded like some other words. Words were, "I asked God for him." Hannah's husband went to the worship tent that year, but Hannah didn't go with him. "I'll go when the baby is older," said Hannah. "I'll take him with me and I will give him to God. He can live there and serve God all his life." "All right," said her husband, "if that's what you think is best." So Hannah stayed home, and Samuel grew a little older. Then Hannah took him to the worship tent, and she took him to Eli, the priest. "I'm the woman who was praying here," said Hannah. "I prayed for this boy. God gave me what I asked for. So I'm giving my boy, Samuel, to God now, and my son will serve God all his life." Then Samuel worshiped God at the worship tent. Hannah prayed, "My heart is full of joy. I'm strong in God. He saved me. No one is right and good like God. Don't brag, because God knows. He can tell what you do is right or not. The one who had no children now has 7, but the one with lots of children is sad." "God makes people die or live," said Hannah. "He makes people rich or poor. He makes people great or lowly. He helps people who need help. He lets them sit with princes, and other people look up to them." "God will take care of his people," said Hannah, "but sinful people will live in the dark. People who are against God will be broken. God will judge all the earth." Then the family went back home, but Samuel stayed to serve God at the worship tent. Samuel's mother made him a new robe every year, and she and the boy's father came to the worship tent once a year, and that's when she would brought the robe to Samuel. Eli prayed for good things for Samuel's mother and father. "I pray that God will give you children," he said, "and they will take Samuel's place because you gave him to God." God was kind and loving to Hannah. She had 3 more boys and 2 girls. And that's the end of our reading today. Was that a beautiful story today? I was so happy reading this story today. God is so gracious. And our daily lesson today is not hard to figure out, that when we give something to God, He gives us back even more, especially when we give the things that are most important to us. And it was important to Hannah to have a baby. And did you notice that the other wife, she was not nice to Hannah? She was bragging about the fact that she had children and Hannah did not. She was pestering Hannah and making Hannah very sad. So, one of the other things that we can take away is to make sure that if we have something that somebody else doesn't, that we not show it off and brag about it and make other people feel bad, whether on purpose or on accident, because God is the one who provides everything. And that's what Hannah was saying when after she had her baby. Did you love Hannah's prayer? It was so wonderful. So that's an example of a mom taking her child, and she dedicated Samuel at the very beginning of his life, as soon as he was old enough to serve God his whole life. And so that is our second example we have in the Bible of somebody serving God their entire life and being dedicated to God as special. And isn't that beautiful that it was because uh, God gave Hannah a baby when she didn't have one? And then God blessed her with even more children to replace the one that she gave to God. Wasn't that wonderful? We cannot outgive God. When we give God our best, He always gives us back even more. And we can be like that too. When somebody does something nice for you or gives something nice to you, doesn't it make you feel like you want to do something nice for them or you want to give them something too? God is like that. And He always gives us back more than what we give Him. I remember hearing a story in church though one time. I was reminded of this morning that when we give to God, and we it should not be with the expectation of, if I give this to God, He will give me more back, because God knows our heart. So for people who try to uh, intentionally give just so that they can get back, God knows the difference. Remember in the very beginning, if you were with us from the very beginning, where Cain and Abel both brought their offerings to God, and God was happy with Abel's offering, but He was not happy with Cain's offering because Cain gave him um, some, and Abel gave his best. So God knows whether we're giving our best or whether we're just giving some, and He knows our heart. So I remember hearing a story in church where one of the pastors was telling a story about a man who was older, and he no longer came to church, and he didn't want to participate. And he had been around for a while, and he had always given a tithe. The tithe means 10%. And so that is one of the things that God asks for us to give Him back is 10% of what He gives us. And that is the one thing in the Bible where God says that, test me on this. If you give me your 10%, I will give you back more. And nowhere else does God invite us to test Him on anything that I'm aware of, anyway. Um, and so I've heard a sermon about that. And so that was probably the sermon there that day. And so a man had um, specifically been giving so that he could get back more. So when the pastor talked to him and said, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? We miss you." And he said, "Well, I'm not going anymore." And he said, "Well, why?" And he said, "Well, I was giving 10% because I expected God to give me back more, and He didn't." And that's a little bit of a surprise, isn't it? And so the pastor explained that um, God invites us to test Him, that He will give back more, but not that is different. He had a specific goal that, like an investment opportunity, that he wanted to invest expecting a high yield return. And that's not what God says. He says that, when we are to give joyfully. We give out of choice. We don't give because we feel like we have to. So when you give something to God, we should give it with the choice that we want to give it, because nobody wants to be given something because they feel like you have to give it to them. What if you gave somebody a birthday gift? Well, here's your birthday gift. It's your birthday and you're expecting something, so here it is. That wouldn't feel very good, would it? Or what if, we did that for Christmas? Well, I'm supposed to give you something, so I got you something. And we would call that obligatory. Uh, and so God doesn't want us to give because we have to. God is very big on free will. And Hannah freely chose to give God her baby. And she was happy to do so. And she was rejoicing in the fact that her son would be serving him. And she was just so happy that God had blessed her with a child at all, that it was her delight to give him back to God. And so that is the difference we see here is the heart. So I just wanted to encourage us that when we give to God, that we do so with a joyful heart and that we do so out of choice, because God doesn't want us to give out of obligation or feeling like we have to. He wants us to be happy when we do so. And I guess that's about it. I don't know how much more I can say on that. So after, I guess the man did start coming back to church, if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly, but he probably did. Um, but he was not, I think he was maybe not alive anymore or something. And that's why the story was told. I don't really remember those details. It was a long time ago, but it was a story that I thought I would share because it was worth repeating as an actual example of somebody trying to um, gain profit by giving to God. That's not the way it works. So I just wanted to put that out there as like a disqualification, kind of a thing to say, make sure we're not doing this. And one of the things that we read earlier, as far as the Nazarite vow, is the vow. We have our New Testament parallel, and that's the choice to give God ourselves. So when we give ourselves to God, it should be done joyfully and out of a choice, because God gave us free will for a reason. From the very beginning, Adam and Eve had free will to choose to obey or not obey. And God desires us to come to Him with free will out of choice. He's not one who's going to be happy by somebody coming out of obligation, by you feeling like, well, I'm only doing this because I have to. But sometimes we do things out of trusting God that we don't understand what He is asking us to do, but we choose to obey, knowing that His ways are higher than our ways. But that's not exactly the same as saying, well, I'm doing this just because I have to. It's like when your mom or dad ask you to do something and you have a bad attitude about it and you do it because you have to, not because you want to, but because they're bigger than you and you'll get in trouble if you don't. God doesn't want it to be that way. And um, and so it's very important that we have that attitude. I actually learned another technique in my uh, training when I was becoming a health and wellness coach, that this is very applicable now. And in life, when I think I've shared this before, it sounds like I feel like I may have shared this before. When we do something that we feel like we're only doing because we have to do it, we can change our thinking about that, because it's better to have a better attitude about it. That rather than saying, I have to do this, I don't have a choice, we can say, I choose to do this because, and then give the reason. And when you change your mind in thinking, I am choosing to do this because, then it makes a difference in your mind and in your perspective, and it makes you happier. I absolutely can testify to that. There are things that, like, let's say the example that I read about, or when I was learning this, was uh, I have to cook. I have to do the dishes. Well, we don't have to. You can choose not to. But if you don't, then other things that are less pleasant will happen. So instead of saying, I have to cook dinner tonight, whether I want to or not, because everybody has to eat, we can say, I choose to cook dinner tonight because my family is unable to prepare dinner themselves. Something like that. I am choosing to cook dinner tonight because I need to eat dinner and I need something to eat anyways, and I'm going to make enough to share with my family. Instead of saying, I have to do the dishes, we can say, I choose to do the dishes because I don't like the mess in the kitchen if I don't. I choose to do the dishes because I don't want to have my plates pile up so that they become more of a chore later, because eventually they do have to be done, right? So instead of making it an I have to, we can say, I choose to do this. I choose to uh, obey God because I want to be happier in my life. When we choose to obey, even if we don't understand, um, then we are submitting to Him. We are saying, I don't understand why I need to do this, but I trust you. And that is what faith means, is to trust in God. And I think I didn't complete my other thought that uh, the remember that parallel in the New Testament is to give ourselves as a living sacrifice to God. That would be applicable here as well, that we may not be giving our children to serve God from the beginning, but we can choose to present ourselves as a living sacrifice every day. And not because we have to, but because we choose to. I choose to obey God and I choose to be different for you, God, because I want to be pleasing to you, or whatever your reason is. You will have your own personal reason, but whatever it is your reason is, that is what you want to say out loud, because it makes a difference when we say things out loud versus just thinking them in our heads. It just does. It When we say things out loud, they sound different and we process them differently than we do when we're just thinking things. You ever had that happen where you say, "Well, that sounded great until I said it out loud." That I thought that was a great idea until I said it out loud. Because once you hear it, you realize, "Oh, wait, that's not a great idea." Or once you hear it, you go, "Oh, this is great. I love this." And so it will help you if you speak out loud to yourself. If you are having difficulty with making a choice to do something that you would rather not do, then find why you would want to, and then say that. Well, I guess I did have more to say. I always think of more to say after I say, well, I guess that's about it. So thank you for joining me today. Whether you are listening via TikTok or YouTube, or on YouTube Music, or on Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music, or whatever your favorite podcasting app is, or how you are choosing to watch the video, thank you so much for being here. And if you feel that God has lit your light inside today, then please click that light button. It looks like a light button with a thumbs up, but it's a light button. And it would help get the channel a little bit more attention and a little bit more views. People will be able to see it if YouTube or whatever avenue you are watching starts to see that there are likes going on. And if you have not already, please consider subscribing or following the channel. And I appreciate you being here. I will see you everybody tomorrow. And oh, we have a 6th subscriber on my YouTube. Yay! I don't know who you are, but thank you for being out there. If you just recently subscribed in the last week or two, that is you. And whoever you are, I want to thank you personally for being here with me. And I am glad you are here. I will see everybody again tomorrow.